Hey everyone, welcome to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast, the ultimate blueprint to self-love and inner peace. I'm your host, Danielle Ban. As a cognitive behavioral therapist, life coach, meditation teacher, and author, I've spent my life studying and learning from the stories that make us human. It's my passion and goal to help you shift your mindset and create a lifelong revolution by teaching you about mental health, emotional intelligence, and hand over the life lessons and the things that you wished you would have learned but haven't up until now. These are the conversations to guide you into empowering who you are while learning to live as your most authentic, grounded, and balanced self. Well, the ball has dropped. The calendar has changed. It is officially 2024. There's so much possibility, potential, and energy waiting for you in this new here and now. And yet, just because the calendar changed doesn't mean that all of the problems that you had yesterday haven't found their way into today. But there's so much waiting for you that you and I are taking a one-on-one deep dive into kicking off this year with a forward focus. We're trashing the lack mentality. We're looking at the problems. We're tossing out the word resolution, and we're getting so intentional about what you need and want that you are completely focused on meeting yourself where you are and get to a place of where you want to be. Let's not waste another single moment. The Get Your Life Together Girl podcast starts right now. I honestly can't believe we have really turned the page into 2024. You know, the new year is really a great time to turn a new page, which is why so many people make resolutions. I'm sure you probably have already set some resolutions, or you've been thinking about what do you want this year to look like. And that thought alone is a really great thing. It's just that sometimes the word resolution tricks the brain and we have a problem on our hands. We have a sense of failure when we don't meet our goals. And so I wanted to have a conversation about really great ways to set intentions with a thought of results instead of a resolution, which can often just be a statement with no action behind it. I mean, let's face it, the new year often feels like a fresh start and a great opportunity to change habits, establish new routines, to really help us grow in our 5 masters of our lives, right? Which those masters come down to your mental aspect of your life, your physical aspects, your emotional aspects, financial and spiritual. If we look at our lives through those 5 lenses, we really do give ourselves a forward path because we're meeting our needs. Those 5 things, our mental health, our physical health, our emotional health, our financial health, and our spiritual health, impact everything that we do. And so when we turn the new page into a new year, we have to really think about, are we going to allow ourselves to have a path forward, or are we going to give ourselves a path into self-abandonment? Right? That's where so many resolutions get off course. So let's first talk about what a resolution actually is and change the word to intentions. And let's talk about why we make them, right? Other than it's just a new year and we've been doing it because that's what we thought we needed to do, right? The word should comes into play right now. But what is a resolution? A resolution is a firm decision to do or not to do something. It's the quality of being determined or resolute. I actually don't hate the word resolute. It doesn't bother me as much as resolution because it has purpose and, passion behind it. I'm resolute in doing this. Resolution has such a tainted view of it. But another term for resolution is the action of solving a problem. Okay, this is really what a resolution is. It has become this thing that, well, we set this resolution a formal expression of our intention for the day. But that's not really what resolutions have really become. They are this thing that we do because we don't want to do something else or because we have a problem that we are trying to solve, but we don't put anything behind it. Resolute, remember purpose, determination, purposeful. We are having a solution path to a problem. Resolution, just a bunch of word salad. That's really what it is. With that, why do we make resolutions? Many people, like millions of people, resolve to make changes at the beginning of a new year because there is a fresh start effect. It's where we put motivation and aspirations into our behaviors because we feel like there is a new beginning. And if we think in those terms, we really give ourselves an opportunity to overcome struggles, ignite our willpower, give ourselves motivation and determination, and lean into what could be something more and different. There's a perception that our success could be tied to this idea if we just get past a certain point. And for most people, that's March, right? They feel like if they can make it past March, that they're putting enough habit into place that they can actually make sustainable changes. In a study that was done, about 12% of people who make resolutions actually feel like they could meet their goal. And that was around some very common resolutions like losing weight or sticking to a specific diet or a healthier diet, exercising regularly, making better financial choices, quitting smoking, or even things like spending more time with family or being oriented like getting enough sleep. But the biggest thing is, just because you set a resolution doesn't mean that the resolution will actually stick, right? It doesn't mean that you're going to see success just because you put together something that could be a focus. And so that's what we really want to talk about. The difference between this focus of just putting a goal, a specific goal in place versus an intention. Think about that idea that we're trying to solve a specific problem, goals just being the words, but intention means that we're putting concrete, achievable action into forward movement, which gives you the opportunity to plan exactly how you're going to accomplish what you're wanting to change or create. This is where resolutions become something that are sustainable. Let me give you the definition of intention just to take this conversation just a step further. And an intention is a plan or a specific set of action where your brain is focused on the action itself. It involves emotion and expectation that aligns with an outcome. So these can be very specific. They can be general, but they really align with a sense of purpose that aligns with your values. Do you see the difference here? Do you see how this thought pattern, this action pattern would allow you to have more focus and to get to a result instead of just having a goal? We want to have positive forward motion. So often in the new year, we are so thankful that what once was has ended and now we can shift focus. And if you're there, I know I have been that way with 2023. It's okay. It's totally fine, but it is time to get into a space where you can think about some relatively simple actions and intentions that you can use to create your life in a way that works for you. When we talk about moving forward, we have to lean into self-determination. And in that self-determination, we really do want to get specific if we're trying to achieve something specific. Every year, millions of adults say they are going to lose weight. They resolve to be more productive or to get in shape. And instead of selecting an ambiguous goal, they really need to focus on something intentional. Remember, that is emotional. Why do I want to do this? What will happen if I commit to losing 10 pounds? And if I do that, what is it going to take for me to get there? If you've listened to the podcast, if you follow me on social media, if you receive my newsletter, you know that I ask the same specific 4 questions over and over again ad nauseum, right? What do I want? How do I want to feel? How do I want to get there? What do I need? In different order, right? Every single time, depending on what you're focusing on. The answers to those questions do allow you to hit a number of different objectives, which allows you to emotionally tie to it and focus on what you can accomplish. We're looking at a result. So if we can get very specific, then we can limit the intentionality. Focusing on one goal, intention, resolution, whatever it is, can boost your belief in yourself. For larger goals or intentions, you're going to want to break those down into manageable chunks of time. If you are looking at a behavior change like quitting smoking, you have to have a full range of thought here. Not like, I'm going to go from 2 packs of cigarettes a day to cold turkey. It won't work, right? Instead of that, it's more like, I'm going to go from smoking 10 cigarettes a day down to 5. And then in 3 weeks, I'm going to go to 3. And then to 2 and to 1 and to none. Singling your task down into manageable chunks allows you to really get specific and be more productive. So as you begin to really focus on what you want this year, what you want to redefine, how you want to retrain your brain into making things work for you, think about getting a full picture in place. When you deep dive into full picture thinking, it lets you look at what you need, right? Again, if the resolute action is to create a target, how are you going to create a path to get there? It's so important. It's so necessary. So focus on one thing at a time. Taking too much time on one thing can also be daunting. This is also where resolutions fail. So we're talking a little bit now about the failure part of it, but what about succeeding, right? And it is to really look at, what do you need to put in place to make everything work? Resolutions often fail because of the planning effect, right? So don't put so much time into thinking about what the end result would be and start putting a lot of time into how do you get there, right? An extensive plan is okay, but the more complicated we get on anything, the more steps we have to take, the more likelihood it is that we don't take the first step to begin with. It's too hard. It's too much. So instead, you can make a detailed plan by writing it down and breaking it into small critical pieces of success. What's the one thing, the small tactic that allows you to face the challenges, preset anything that could get in your way, and get into a path of noting the obstacles and moving forward anyway? By knowing exactly what you want to accomplish and the difficulties you might face, you're more prepared to stick to your intention and overcome anything that might sidetrack you. So I said, start with small steps. Again, taking on too much is a failure at the very beginning, right? Because it's too restrictive. It's too much to deal with. It's a radical altering of your behavior that doesn't actually have a way to keep you focused and motivated if there's any bit of derail along the way. I see this a lot. I see this in my women that I work with. Men tend to do a little bit better with these kind of things for some reason. I actually don't know why. I'm going to be really honest. After all of this time, I don't know why. But for women, if we tend to get sidetracked and we will say, oh, I have to start completely over again. Instead of saying, you know what, I didn't lose any of my forward motion, we put a halt on everything and say, well, we got to start completely over. We tend to edit our success based on our current feelings. And that's a very difficult place to be. You know, you don't lose what progress you have made just because you took a day off or because you took a sidestep. You know, if you are thinking about exercising and you don't exercise for a week, you don't have to start all over to retrain the muscles. You just have to get back to it. The only time that we are restarting is if it's been a very long time and we're having to relearn a procedure or a thing in order to do the plan to begin with, right? So if we break things down, we lead our way to success. Think about running as a healthy exercise that a lot of people tend to pick up during this time of the year. They're like, okay, I'm going to run every single day. Well, first and foremost, if you're not a runner, your muscles are going to be too fatigued after day 1 and 2 to actually continue that. So it's better to slowly work up to exercising more days than trying to push your body to do something that it's not used to. Your mind is the exact same way, right? You should be making small, tiny steps to reach your larger goals, incentives, results, intentions. If you're trying to eat healthier, you're going to start replacing a few unhealthy things with more nutritious options instead of trying to tackle everything and throw everything out and start all over again. Your brain needs that kind of substance too. The biggest thing with resolutions and even with intentions and with goals is this one thing that we fail to remember. And really, this is probably the cusp of the entire conversation, is that when we're doing something new, there's change in the process of this. Anytime that we are trying to move unhealthy or undesirable habits, there is change. If it took you years to develop something, you're not going to change it in the matter of seconds and hours and sometimes even days, weeks, and months. And you have to be prepared and patient with yourself to allow yourself the process of allowing the intention to be a part of your new experience. If you make a misstep or two, it's okay. You can actually continue on towards your journey. But the thing is, when we are trying to make change, change is a part of the process. We have to look at the fact that every time we do something, we're reinforcing to the brain that this may be feeling good to us or this may be feeling bad to us. And if it feels good, our brain is going to lock into it after a certain amount of time. There was a recent study that was put out that said that it takes us 400 consecutive actions in order for our brain to actually catch on and make a new neural pathway into doing that thing. Wow, 400 repetitions. That's a lot, right? If you do something every single day, only once for an entire year, guess what? It's going to take you more than a year to change the habit. However, there's a caveat to all of that. And it is that if you actually put emotion with it, right? There's our intentionality. That actually changes the behavior even faster in the brain, in the mindset, in the life that you're living. So think about it. How can I absolutely be emotionally set in achieving my goals, not just to run the race and to finish the race, but to be a part of it, to be committed to the change of it all so that I can use the benefit that I'm creating for the rest of my life? Anytime we are setting ourselves up for this new leaf change, this new year movement, asking yourself, what am I capable of? What do I want out of this experience? What do I know now? What am I good at? What do I wish I was more capable of in order to get to this next place that I'm trying to get to? I have to remember that change is a part of the process and that the mental part of it is just as important as everything else. Now, I said at the very beginning, we're throwing out the lack mentality. Let's talk about this part of it. It's an important part. When we're talking about resolutions, when we're talking about goals and intentionality, the first days of New Year's, as we are right now, tend to feel pretty confident, right? They're highly motivating. We're able to reach exactly what we are wanting to do. But because we don't have a space yet that we haven't faced any discomfort or the temptation associated with letting go of the behavior, we don't actually get into a space where we need more motivation. It's not until we are dealing with the reality of trying to get ourselves up at 6 a.m. to, work out, or when we're at the grocery store and we want to buy all the cookies instead of the vegetables, that we get into a place that we need some motivation. And this is where we have to look at the intentionality. We have to be motivated to keep somewhat of a journal, to consider writing our successes and our struggles down. If we write down why we're working towards the goal at least once a week, it's going to be easier not to feel uninspired or unmotivated, because we're actually giving the brain evidence that things are working for us. It's kind of like a source of inspiration to keep you going when times get tough. And when lack mentality sets in, so like by mid-March, where everybody's lost motivation to keep going that they had back on this day in January, we can start looking at the fact that we don't have to reevaluate or develop a new plan, but instead just bring ourselves back by letting go of the lack. We don't have to start over. We just have to be flexible in the plan. If we did all the pre-work ahead of time, then we already knew what we were going to do if we got offset to begin with. This is where we look at the intentionality part of it all. If we are intentional, we give ourselves the ability to be reasonable with our lives. If we have a bad habit or we have something we want to create, we want to make sure that we're not putting that into a negative light. I want to lose weight because I am heavy. That is not motivation. I want to lose weight because I want to be the healthiest version of myself. That's motivating. I want to quit smoking because it's disgusting. Well, that's not really motivating. I want to lose this habit so that I can breathe better. That's motivating. I want to learn to meditate because my brain is too busy. That's not all that, excellent in the thought process. But I want to learn to meditate so that I can feel a sense of calm. That's motivating. We have to look at our intentions. We have to know that we have to adapt so that we do not relapse into a bad habit. Intentions. Remember the definition, that it is an emotional-based action plan. What does that mean? It means that you are going to walk the line, a trip line, between failure and success on the way to achieving a result. It means that not every day is going to be easy, and there will be times where you want to give up. So what in your life do you need to focus on? What will give you a sense of action, responsibility, of a target that is going to increase the overall being of your life? What is the area of focus? Remember, I gave you the 5 masters of your life: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and financial. Let's break that down just a little bit more. I'm going to throw out some resolutions that are pretty, umbrella, right? There's not a lot to them, but maybe it's something that sparks a deeper resolution, a deeper intention for you. So in 2024, in your career, maybe it's that you want to ask for a raise. Maybe you want to start a side hustle. What is it? Maybe you need to quit your job. Maybe you want to shake imposter syndrome. What does that look like? What do you need to focus on? What do you need to do? How do you want to feel? How are you going to intentionally get there? Physically, maybe it's getting healthier in your fitness, right? So you're going to start exercising. You're going to be more flexible. You're going to become healthier by going to the doctor. Maybe you're going to get stronger. In the other physical realm, maybe you are going to get organized. You're going to do journaling. You're going to change your life. You're going to improve your focus. What do you need to do? What's the intention? In your health, maybe you want to be a morning person. You want to get up at 5 a.m. You want to drink more water. You want to sleep better. You want to be more mindful about what you're eating. Maybe you want to take care of your teeth. Maybe you just want to get into a space that you're taking a little bit more downtime. What does it look like? What do you need? How are you intentionally going to be there? Financially, how are you going to take care of the credit card debt that you may have? How are you going to make a budget? How are you going to stop stress spending? How are you going to have fun on a budget? How are you going to find a better bank that works for you? In your relationships, how are you going to create a relationship that is solid? Whether that's friendships or in a romantic relationship or even with family. Are you okay with being single? Right? Maybe that's something you need to focus on. In the family aspect, how can you be a better wife or daughter or mother or spouse or husband or brother or son? Whatever it is, what role you play, how can you best be a part of that? With mental health, how can you best support your overall well-being? How can you deal with burnout? How can you get better at saying no? How can you have more fun? How can you let go of perfectionism? How can you feel best? How can you let go of anxiety? How can you change your relationship with forecasting or overthinking? These are all things that you can focus on. If you focus on what you want to change in sustainable small ways, you can reach the goal. When you focus on one thing at a time, you allow yourself to take action. You give yourself a plan and a path forward to emotionally connect. When you improve your focus, you improve your life. Dr. Wayne Dyer used to say, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. It means that our perception of the world is created by our life experiences. The state of your life has more to do with the reflection of your mind, the intentionality that's happening, than anything else. And so if you change the way you look at things, I'm going to really focus. I'm going to allow myself a healthy, fresh start. I'm going to allow myself to do what I need to do. I'm going to motivate myself instead of be miserable. I'm going to give myself actionable steps instead of look at failure. I'm going to lean in and I'm going to change the way I look at things. The reflection of your life changes. Nothing can change until you change. And so this is the time of year where a new chapter has started. A new ability to lean in and make sustainable, sizable change is here. It's easy to get into a space of, but I can't. As much as it is easy to get into a state of, watch me, right? If I'm going to change blank, what do I need to do to change it? You need to affirm yourself in order to really get into a space that your life has gains instead of losses. Anytime you look at lack, you receive lack. Anytime that you feel like you can't focus, that's where you are. Change your focus. So once you know exactly what it is that you want to create in your life, write it down. Get so committed to it. Be natural in its thought process to it, right? Instead of forcing it. Think about it. And then outline a plan. What's the first initial step that has to occur in order for you to take action? What needs to happen? And then create targets. What are your actionable steps? What are these places that are your check-ins that are going to allow you to keep moving forward when it's easy to take a sidestep on the other direction? And then review its sustainability. Right? Remember, when we have intentions, it doesn't mean that our action is always linear. It doesn't mean that we're always climbing upward. Sometimes we're going to fall into the valley and we are going to fall hard, right? And so what happens, what needs to occur so that you can feel like you are achieving a certain amount of success without even disrupting your life, without getting into a space where you're overwhelmed because you're creating something you didn't have time to create in the first place. And then I want you to create a timeline, an intentionality check-in. Write this into your plan. When will you spend time checking in and measuring if you've met your target, your end frame? Will that be every week, every 2 weeks, every month? When will this be? Allow yourself to take a journey and celebrate the victories. Intentionality, remember, is all about the emotional connection. Anytime we add emotion, we change the habit, we reinforce it in the brain. So here's where we want to do that. And then I want you to give yourself a deadline. Now, of course, this is an open-end space because we don't want to get intentionality fatigue or goal fatigue or resolution fatigue, whatever word you so choose to lean into, right? But make sure that you have these targets so that you know you can actually meet certain things. And when all of that's done, I want you to ask yourself, is my intentionality flexible or rigid? Meaning, if the how I am using to get to the end intention gets diverted, will I be able to adapt? If I'm not going to be able to adapt, what do I need to do to put another piece in place to help myself? Being flexible is always best. Things are going to come up. The path is going to change. Things are going to happen where you are going to be forced to change the plan. And if you don't have the ability to adjust, if you're only focused on, say, the resolution, that's when frustration and negative self-talk and this place where you're downgrading your self-esteem really takes place. If you want to create a reachable, action-based, intentional goal or plan, you have to be able to establish a clear vision. You have to establish motivation. You have to give yourself a why. You have to commit to a timeline. You have to stay consistent. You have to be objective. If there's something that you want in 2024, do you have to release something else to make it happen? Do you have to get into a space where you are elevating so many things to make that one thing happen? I hope not, because it's not going to be sustainable. But whatever it is that you are so choosing to create, see it. I want you to believe it. I want you to create it. It all starts with a thought first. What are you intentional about? What's that wish, that desire, that power that you have that can really move from your mind onto a page and then into existence? You are the brilliant architect of your life. You have to trust yourself. You want to lose weight? Do it. You want to write a book? Do it. You want to start a new business? Do it. You want to gain a new perspective in your life and let go of the trauma? By God, do it. Do it. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. You deserve that. You deserve to take what you want and bring it into reality. When you allow yourself permission to be intentional, you do just that. Do we need to think about lack? No. Do we need to think about resolutions that may not be here in March? No. We need to think about sustainability and build exactly where we want to go in our focus right now. What are you focusing on in 2024? What are you motivated to do? What brilliant thing are you going to create? This is the focus. Everything that you are doing in this practice, in this element of change, leads you into a focus change, which means you don't really even need to focus on the change itself, because that's going to be the result. What you need to do is focus on the benefit and the action and the feeling, and then trust yourself enough to get started. You do deserve that. And if you will just put intentionality onto the page and into your life, the things you look at change. The things you feel change. Your life changes. And that is, of course, an essential step into getting your life together. Thank you so much for listening to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast. If you've enjoyed these tips for bettering your life, please subscribe and turn on notifications to be alerted each week when a new episode is released. If you're looking for more daily inspiration, follow me on social media at Get Your Life Together Girl on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Clapper, and Threads. You can also visit the show notes and my website at getyourlifetogethergirl.com. While you're there, check out the merch shop and all of the courses and downloadable tools that are available to you right now. Until next time, be kind to yourself and others.